Hello, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you today for our special book creator webinar using Book Creator for reading responses. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You'll see that I am on double duty today, hosting and leading the webinar. So you'll notice that I'll toggle from slide to slide on the left-hand side of my screen. But if you can see that using Book Creator for reading responses, title slide, we are good to go. My name is Monica Burns. I'm a book creator ambassador and pumped to be here today to talk to you about using Book Creator for reading responses. And so this is an interactive webinar for those of you who are joining us live. Go ahead and find the questions area of the GoToWebinar control panel that should pop up on the right-hand side of your screen and type in your name and where you're coming from. And we'll start off with a few shout outs before we dive in today. If for some reason you can't find that GoToWebinar control panel, it might have disappeared from you and you just see a little orange arrow, go ahead and click that and it'll pop back open for you. Welcome Nancy from Indiana, Julie from Minnesota. Awesome. Eileen from Illinois on a rainy day. Eileen, it was rainy here today too. Welcome, Vicky from British Columbia. Welcome, Mandy from Georgia. Lots of folks. I'm trying my best to get through the list here. We have lots of people joining, so you can keep on saying hello so I know you can hear me, and we're good to go together today. Before we jump into our webinar, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you. So I'm going to push out some poll questions for those of you who are joining us live today. So the first question is going to be, how familiar are you with Book Creator? Maybe you're a pro, you've used it a few times, or you're totally brand new to Book Creator. It's going to help us as we move through today. So looking at the votes coming in, there's more than half of you. Let's see, we're at about 60%, 65% there have used it a few times. About 20% of you are a pro, and about 20% of you are brand new to Book Creator. If you're totally brand new for Book Creator, don't worry. We're going to do a quick overview of the tool today. If you still feel like you have some questions, Book Creator's YouTube channel has our Getting Started with Book Creator webinar, which will give you some extra details, and I'll make sure to point you in that direction before we finish up today. The next question is, what grade levels do you teach and support? You might choose all four of these or just one. What grade levels do you teach support, whether you're in a classroom or in a supporting role? So you might choose more than one of these depending on your role this year. It looks like with votes coming in, now remember, people can choose more than one, so these won't add up to 100. It looks like about 2/3 of you work with K2, about 3/4 of you work with 3-5, a little less than half for our middle school folks, and about 1/3 of you work or support high school students as well. Awesome. So what subjects do you teach? We're talking about reading today, and of course, reading happens in every subject area. Maybe you teach all of these, or if you click the other button, you can head over to that question box and you can tell us a little bit about what your role is. Maybe you are a tech specialist or media specialist in your school, or you do something a little bit different than teaching one or a couple subject areas. Awesome. See some library media specialists here with us, teacher librarian, tech specialists. For those of you who participated in the poll, it looks like about 2/3 of you support ELA, a quarter of you support math and science, a third support social studies in some way. Great. And our last question is specific to Book Creator on Chrome. Have you used Book Creator on Chrome before? You might be familiar with Book Creator just on iPads. Book Creator's been around on iPads for quite some some time, but we're going to look at some Chrome examples today, which will complement for those of you who already use Book Creator on Chrome. So let's see as those votes come in for those of you joining us live today. About half of you have tried Book Creator on Chrome before. Awesome. About a quarter of you have only used it on iPads, and then about a quarter of you are totally new to Book Creator, which we talked about a little bit already. So today, our webinar is focused on using Book Creator for reading responses. I'm going to go through a whole bunch of tips, activities, and lesson ideas. And one thing we're going to do together today is I'm hoping you'll be able to open up another window on your screen. So if you're watching this on a computer, you might open up another tab in a Chrome browser, because we are going to play around with Book Creator live today as you're watching this webinar. And remember, we will record this webinar too, so if I move through something a little bit quickly, or you like some of the things that you hear and you want to share it with someone who couldn't join live today, I'll make sure that you have a link in your inbox pretty soon. Once it's uploaded to the YouTube channel, we'll make sure that you have the link so that you can watch it. So again, my name is Monica Burns. I am a Book Creator Ambassador and former New York City public school teacher. So I taught in a one-to-one iPad classroom. I've been excited about Book Creator for a long time. And now that I've been out of the classroom for a couple years, writing and sharing on my blog, classtechtips.com, and my books, I also spend lots of time in other people's classrooms too. And so one of the things that I've had a chance to do this past year is work with some classrooms that are trying out Book Creator, making books for lots of reasons, including reading responses. So I am just super excited about Book Creator on Chrome. Of course, if you're using it on iPad, that's awesome too. But we'll look at more Chrome screenshots today and talk a little bit about Chrome, but you'll be set no matter how you are accessing Book Creator with your students and with us today. Now, this is just one of the 10 webinars we're hosting this summer that I'm partnering up with Book Creator to host for you this summer. The next 3 on the schedule happen in the month of July. We'll be doing real-time collaboration with Book Creator, digital storytelling with Book Creator, and getting started with Book Creator on Chrome. So if you're totally one of those people who are totally new to getting to Book Creator on Chrome, the Getting Started webinar will be great for you. If you missed our May and June webinars, you can watch them on the YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on Book Creator's YouTube channel right now, you know where to go. You'll be able to find those webinars. But of course, if you want to sign up for upcoming webinars, you can head over to bookcreator.com/webinars. And when we talk about Book Creator on Chrome today, we're talking about the Chrome web browser, or using on Chrome books on the Chrome web browser. So today I'm with you on my Mac computer. I use Book Creator on Chrome on my Mac computer, but of course, if you are on Chromebooks, you would open up the Chrome web browser, and we'll talk about getting over there soon. So Book Creator, as many of you know, is an open-ended creation tool. It lets teachers, students, anyone create and publish books. Now, this provides a customizable experience for you and your students. What I love about open-ended creation tools is that there's no level to win. There's no right answer. There's no quiz questions. It is a choose your own adventure, blank canvas that you can turn into anything you can imagine. So as we talk about Book Creator today in the lens of reading responses, you'll want to make sure that you're thinking about what your students are going to do when they open up Book Creator. Now, students can make lots of different things, from digital portfolios to poetry books to step-by-step guides, science reports, learning journals, comics, you name it. And we're going to play around with some of these ideas and features as we dive into Book Creator together today. So teachers are using Book Creators for lots of different reasons: to publish student work, to have students demonstrate their understanding, to promote collaboration as kids are sitting side by side, leaning over and talking about books that they're making together, or while they're doing some remote collaboration right from their own device. It can really help set a purpose for learning, the why we're doing what we're doing while we're creating a book together, or we're creating a book individually to share with a certain audience. And so as you create for an authentic audience, as your kids make a book, they can share it with the world, they can share it close by. So many options and lots of different ways teachers are using Book Creator. So for those of you that are totally brand new to Book Creator, this is a quick overview, and remember, we'll pause as we go through today to try out some things, but if I move through this too fast, know that there's some great resources on Book Creator's website and their YouTube channel that slow this down so that when you get started with Book Creator, you'll have those extra resources too. But it is a super intuitive tool, and I don't think you'll have any trouble jumping in as we go through today. So just like on iPads, when you're at app.bookcreator.com, which is how you access Book Creator, you have an option to create a new book by choosing a book shape. So you might choose the plain portrait, square, or landscape, or the comic version of that. I'm going to go ahead with my screenshots as I take you through today and show you what it looks like to choose the landscape. I love demoing with the landscape because it fills up my whole screen. Well, then you have the option to do a few different things. You see that plus sign on the upper right-hand side, similar to what you might be familiar with from iPad, using this on an iPad. And that means that you have the opportunity to add a few different things to your page. And we'll talk about this in the context of reading responses as we go through today. That import button lets you search for a picture, so you can search within Google Image Search. This is different than what you might be used to on the iPad version of Book Creator. This lets you search for photos that are labeled for commercial reuse with modification. I love that color button underneath the search term, because it lets you find a picture that's perfect for whatever your color scheme might be. Or of course, you can hit that blue button and choose a file from your computer or one that's in your Google Drive. Once you've added it to the page, you can grab that picture with the blue corners to make it larger or smaller. You can spin it with that green dot. You can also use the pen tool, which is another option when you hit that plus sign, and you can draw right on your screen, choose the color, and resize that like you see it now down at the bottom right-hand corner. You can also change the background of your page. You can add text like you see here with the Badlands National Park. So you have lots of options for customizing your creation. And one of the favorite parts of Book Creator is the ability for students to record their voice. So hitting that plus sign, choosing the record button, and then being able to make this audio button that you see down here on the bottom left-hand corner of the page. You can also add shapes, like you see that blue rounded rectangle around Badlands National Park. You can layer all these shapes and images. There's just so much you can do with this tool. So teachers are using Book Creator for those interactive pages, the combination of media. There's a lot of accessibility support, which is so important and really special about Book Creator, and because students can make shareable products. Well, today we're focused in on using Book Creator for reading responses, thinking specifically about activities for reading literature and informational text, reading connections across content areas, and templates, student work examples, and collaborative activities for students. So as we go through today, I will share some ideas with you. I'll share some screenshots with you of examples of what your students might create, but I'll also mention some ways that you might connect this to different types of text, as well as scale these activities for different groups of students in your class. So something you might see might look like it's perfect for a group of 4th graders, but there's things you can do to scale it for kindergartners and scale it for 11th graders too. So we'll talk about some big ideas that you can totally customize for your group. So let's start off by thinking a little bit. How do your students respond to reading? Right now, what are some things that you do in your classrooms or with the classrooms you support to have students respond to their reading? Go ahead in that question box and share a couple ways that your students respond to reading. So Sam mentioned some different ways that their students respond: Padlet, Nearpod, writing journal entries, using sticky notes in books, journaling. Thanks, Lorna. Doing Think, Pair, Share. Yeah, Peggy, awesome. Answering questions that you might pose to them, using some voice recording apps, taking some snaps of books. Lots of fantastic ideas coming through. Story maps and graphic organizers. Awesome. So keep those ideas coming as we move through. There's so many ways ways that your students are already responding to reading in different parts of the school day. So let's keep adding to this list with Book Creator. We're going to start off with a blog spotlight. If you haven't checked out Book Creator's blog before, I highly recommend it. You head over to bookcreator.com. Their blog is linked right at the top of the page, and there's so many fantastic teacher stories. I've even put some of the links down here at the bottom so that you can see those too, where you can find them. So this one is from Mira Campbell, and you'll see in these student responses, they talked about some of the things that they noticed in their book, some ideas that they had, and they were able to design these individual pages along with pictures of what they were reading. Now, what's really cool about this is you might have every student create one page, and once they have that page, they might then create and add all the things that they want to it, and then you can combine all their pages so you have a class book. Lots of options, an awesome blog post by Mira Campbell. Another one is from Tara Martin, and on this one you see that she is having students create book snaps with Book Creator. So her students have their device right there, they're in comic mode, they're drawing and sketching and then creating that or taking pictures of their illustrations and putting that into Book Creator. So I always love starting off with a blog spotlight because there's so many great teacher stories over at the blog. So to start off today, when we talk about reading responses, I highly encourage you to check out this awesome new feature on Book Creator on Chrome. So you will see this on the Chrome web browser, similar to what you see in my screenshot, my picture right there on the page. In Book Creator on Chrome, as a teacher, you can sign in as a teacher and create a teacher library. This teacher shared library is awesome for reading responses in the way that we're going to talk about today, especially those daily or weekly responses that you want students to do on a really regular basis while you're building those routines in your classroom. So you can create your teacher shared library. Students join the library to share their work. You can review student progress, and you can give them feedback in real time. So as we talk about reading responses today, this is huge. So you have that on the screen here. You see, as a teacher, you can create a new library. Depending on the type of Book Creator plan you have, you can create one library for free or more libraries if you have the upgraded version, which we'll finish up talking about those options today. And then students can join your library and you can peek in and see all of their books. So as readers in your classroom in any subject area, from English language arts to science to social studies, they could be reading a combination, a wide range of informational text and literature. So historical fiction, biographies, realistic fiction, current events, blog posts, textbook, you name it. Students are reading lots of different things. And the activities that we talk about today, you might have them focus just on historical fiction for some of them, or just on responding to current events articles for other things. Totally up to you and what your learning goals are for students. So the first thing that you can create with Book Creator is have students use Book Creator as a daily journal. Now, the expectations that you have for students during this kind of daily journal activity will absolutely vary on your learning goals and what it is you'd like students to accomplish. So creating an exemplar or an example of what your expectations are in a daily journal is a great way to set students up for success. So every student would have their own Book Creator book shared in your teacher shared library, so that then they log in, they can see their book, and every day or periodically they can add the title, the author, they can summarize what they've read. They might do this completely with text, they might add a selfie picture to the page using their device's webcam, or they might have an option to use their voice. So you might give certain students the option to record their voice to give their response. You might encourage other students to use a text box to add their response. Really just depends on what you'd like to see students accomplish in their daily journal and the expectations that you have for them. What's super great about a daily journal is that students can make a new page in their book, endless number of pages each day. And while they're doing that, you might change up different prompts for them, different ways for them to respond. You might ask them to choose colors that connect to the theme or the mood of the book that they're reading that day. And they'll have a digital product that shows off all of their reading from the whole school year while you get a chance to peek in and give kids support any way they need. Next up is a character profile. This is a great way to have kids dive into a text, think about a main character or a character that's not on the spotlight the whole time but has plenty of information to use for a character profile. You might have kids pulling specific evidence from the text, searching for images or illustrating images of their own that connect to that person that they're spotlighting. And you might even give them a prompt to follow where you ask them to talk about where the character lives or something that they did or a trait that you would use to describe that character. Now, this is awesome when you are working with students who are reading a variety of books. You might not know every book that they're reading or have a prompt that's specific to their particular independent reading book. So a general prompt that has to do with something like profiling a character is a great way to have kids respond to their reading. Now, if you are in a 8th grade classroom, the type of text evidence that you might require students to include in their response might look different than if you were in a 2nd grade classroom, but this is a nice way to have students really dive into their book, choose a moment that helps them form a response about how their character acts around other characters in the book, where they live, or what predictions they have based on actions that character has already taken. So a character profile is a great option. Now remember when I showed you Book Creator and getting started at that very beginning, there's also the option to choose comics. Now comics are awesome for so many reasons. I really love comics in the reading classroom because they can help students sequence events, they can help them focus in on a setting or where something's taking place. It can make them think about dialogue or what someone was saying or might say. And it also is something that can give them an option to add captions to their pictures where they might use text evidence to really make a connection to what is happening in different parts of a story that they are retelling. You can also use action words and connect those action words just like you would see in a traditional comic or graphic novel to moments and things that are happening within the text. So now I want you to, in a separate web browser, or maybe on your iPad next to you if you're using the app, but if you're on a Chrome web browser, go ahead and join in with us today by creating an ebook with Book Creator. You'll want to go to app.bookcreator.com. So not just bookcreator.com, sneak in that app right at the beginning. Make sure to sign in as a teacher. You can use your Google account to sign in or Google hosted school account to sign in. Once you sign in, make sure to choose that you're a teacher. If you're brand new to using this and signing in for the first time, you might get a prompt to create a library as well. But go ahead and sign in, and then I'm going to give you an instruction of something that you can do. Awesome. So if you're signed in at app.bookcreator.com, which I kept down here at the bottom, sign in as a teacher, I want you to create a new book. You can choose a size, you can choose a shape, you can make it comic or a plain background, but then use the text feature to add the name of a book that you love. So go ahead when you open up Book Creator, create a new book, use that plus sign on the upper right-hand corner and choose the text feature and type in the name of a book you love and add that to your page. As you go ahead and create your new book and use the text feature to add the name of a book you love, I'm going to take a peek at the question box and answer some questions as you try this out now. So some questions coming in as you are working on your book and adding text to your page. So for students to join in with Book Creator, you as a teacher sign in first, then You give them the join code. So if you tried to sign in as a student, you would see it would prompt you for what's your join code, and that connects you to a teacher library. Diane, you can set it up so that students can only see their books, or that they can see their peers' books. You have that option to toggle on or toggle off. I saw a question come in about having students with the paid iPad apps. So this is a little bit different when you have the paid iPad app versus some of the subscription accounts that we're going to talk about towards the end of today. So they're not going to talk to one another just yet. So think of it as two separate things. Students either have their work on their iPad where they're working on their books and then send it to you when they're finished, or they're on Chrome and then you are establishing a teacher library. Make sure that when you head over to bookcreator.com, you're using a web browser and in Chrome specifically. So you don't want to be in Safari or Firefox. You want to be in that Chrome web browser. So keep playing around. You can still use that text button to add text to your page as I go through and share some more ideas with you. So in addition to daily journals, character profiles, and comic retells, you might have students focus in on one element of their reading. For example, you might have students describe the setting of their book. This is a template that you might create and share with students, or you might share as an exemplar and then give them more flexibility with how they present their response with this information. So here you see the book title space at the top of the page for students to add book title. You can have a quote from the author. So maybe if you are asking students to describe the setting of a book, they'll pull one quote from their book where the author describes the setting. And then you can even have a space where students can press the plus sign at the top of their screen and add a picture by searching for a picture of what the setting looks like based on some of the details given by the author. So it's a great way to connect text evidence to media. You might even have some students sneak in the audio recording button down on the bottom corner of their screen, where they talk a little bit about why they chose that picture and how that picture connects to details that the author gave in the text. Another great reading response opportunity is alternate endings. So if you're doing a read aloud book with your class, this is an awesome collaborative project for your kids. So think of a book that you might be reading to your whole class this year. Maybe it's a book like Because of Winn-Dixie, and you get to the very end of the book and students say, I wonder what happens next, or I wonder what it would have been like if this had happened at the end of the book. Well, you can have each student create one page in Book Creator about their alternate ending. They might include pictures, they might do it with audio or illustration, or they might write a paragraph or two to create a page with an alternate ending. This is awesome collaborative piece because if every student makes one page with an alternate ending, they can share that page with you. You can combine them all into a book of your class's alternate endings for a favorite read aloud. It's a really great final product. It requires students to think deeply about what they've read and to produce something that connects to evidence from the text, things that happen in the story, as opposed to a spaceship landing and something totally wild happening. It can be really rooted in the evidence and different events that took place in the text. Another opportunity to have students respond and leverage the power of multimedia on their device is by doing book selfies. You might have also heard the term shelfies before, of people snapping pictures of books that they love or pages from their books. A book selfie is an awesome way to have students respond periodically in their own book of selfies, or as a collaborative opportunity where each student makes one page. Using the camera tool, they can take a picture of how the book makes them feel. They might add a picture of them feeling surprised or angry or worried or happy or laughing because the book that they read was really funny. It's a great way to introduce students to different features on their device. I love doing how did this book make you feel prompts to students the first time they're using an iPad or Chromebook camera. or webcam, I should say. They can also add an audio response or a text response by hitting the plus sign and either doing text or audio recording to talk a little bit about why the book makes them feel a certain way. Next on our list is a picture collage. You might have students reading a current events article about a special place. Maybe it's a current events article about Washington, D.C., or a national park or somewhere special. You can have students either snap photos when they're in that special place, or you might have them search for photos that connect to an article or blog post or something that they've read. They can curate those images, pick the very best one, then they can label and annotate. Maybe they use the shape tool in Book Creator to add arrows to point to different things. Maybe they use the audio button to talk about what they see in the picture and how it connects to what they read. You have lots of different options for making this happen. Now let's try something else together. Go ahead, you should still have your book open or nearby. You might make a new page or add this to the same page you were working on. Use the import button, so hit the plus sign at the top and choose import. Use this feature to search for an image of the setting of your favorite book. So remember, we just use the text tool to add title of our book that we love. Now use the import tool to search for a picture that connects to the setting. So if your favorite book is Charlotte's Web, maybe you're going to press the import button and use that feature to search in Google images for a picture of a barn or a picture of a spider web. As you do that, I'm going to take a peek and see what questions have come in. So one question came in as you're working about uploading images and editing them in Book Creator. So Book Creator will let you resize and spin it, any images that you put on the page, but you won't be able to crop it. So if you have any specific editing you want to do that outside of the app and then import it. Another question came in about fonts and colors. So when you are tapping on your text, so you type it in nice and plain and hit done, then your text has a blue box around it. Once you click on it and it has that blue box around it, you hit the eye inspector button in the upper right hand side of your screen, and that lets you change all the fonts and colors. I saw another question come in about combining students' books. When you have every book in your library, you have the opportunity at the bottom to tap on the screen and it'll give you the option to combine books. Great. So I see some more questions coming in. Go ahead and keep them coming. And as you are adding and searching for images, you can make the image larger or smaller, spin it on your screen. It is totally up to you. Take just another minute or two, and then we'll keep on going with our list of ideas. Great. So let's keep going. So you can also use Book Reader for question collections. Question collections are fantastic reading responses for students, especially if they're reading informational text about a topic that they might not know too much about, or they're reading about a topic that you are going to design a whole unit around, and you want to see what students are curious about, what misconceptions they might have, what they want to investigate further. So with a question collection, you can have students capture their wonderings. This might be a book that they keep adding their questions to all the time, and you peek in and take a look at their questions to help inform your decision making as you make some choices about what you're studying with students. Or it might be that you have one topic like the coral reef or underwater ecosystems, and every student makes their own page with a question that they have. This is great for adding audio, so especially for students who might struggle to type or add text to their screen, they can record their voice and keep a question that they have. It's also an opportunity to combine pictures or even have students do a video reflection where they talk into their screen and they add a question that they have about something that they've read. Another option is a biography spotlight. So with a biography spotlight, you can have students focus on one person. They can collect interesting facts. They can write a whole book as a reading response that profiles one person. So, if you are having them conduct research on a particular time period, if you are asking students to read and synthesize information from a variety of sources, they can bring all of that information into a book creator reading response. In this picture, you see the focus is Harriet Tubman. You can do a Google image search to add her to your page. Then there's 3 extra text boxes, one for each interesting fact that's been collected about her. If you press the audio button, you will hear that fact read aloud. So a great way for students to capture some things that resonated with them as a reader, whether they're reading one article about a person or reading multiple things about a person and synthesizing all that information in one place. If you are reading informational text or literature, you might have students collect different vocabulary words around a topic that they can then explore further. So in this example of a page all about rocks, a student can add a picture to the page, they can add vocabulary words to the page, and they can even add an audio button that might include some extra words or some wonderings or some of their next steps for how they're going to use some of these words in a sentence or use it to explain another concept. You can see there that the shape tool for an arrow is added and that the 2 different fonts, the one at the top and the one at the bottom of the screen, were added as well by clicking on the word or the text box and then hitting the eye inspector button to change the font as well. So before we move into some connections to different subject areas, what type of reading experiences do students have outside of the ELA classroom? So what are some things that your students might be doing in science or social studies or math that connect to reading? Go ahead and use that question box to put your response in. So students might be reading instruction manuals outside of the ELA classroom. Awesome. Students might be reading text that connects to a particular subject area, working with vocabulary, the story problems that might pop up in the math classroom, love book clubs, right, that focus on interdisciplinary themes, so make connections across content areas, and all the different academic vocabulary or domain-specific vocabulary that might pop up during different parts of the day, even things like recipes students are reading and using the information that they've read or following those how-to steps or instructions throughout the school day. So reading happens in lots of different ways around the classroom throughout the school day. So let's take a look at some of the connections that might happen in different parts of the school day, like social studies and reading. You might have students respond to a passage. You might ask them to retell a moment in history or read a current events article. All of those things provide an opportunity for students to read with a purpose while exploring content from a particular subject area. Now, current events articles, I absolutely love. I taught in an upper elementary school classroom and always tried my best to bring in current events articles to make connections to what was happening outside of the classroom while also making sure to hit some informational text reading goals for students too. Now, if you are wondering where you can go online to find some current events articles, Scholastic News, Time for Kids, Newsella, these are all ones that you might want to explore. If you have students on Book Creator on one tab in their Chrome web browser, they can open up another tab and access a Newsella passage or look at a Time for Kids news article and create their response in the other page. Of course, you might have students with their device with Book Creator open and then a paper or a book, a version of a text right next to their side. So there's lots of ways to combine that too and have those pieces come together. In the science classroom, you might have students read a biography, explore a current events article on a science topic, or want to add to a textbook as a reading response. So if they're reading any of those things, they might respond to what they learned in a biography about a scientist. They might write about or respond to their reading about what they learned in a current events article related to a science topic, or if they're reading a textbook and you want them to make some real world connections to what might appear in the textbook, you can have them create multimedia pages that could be added to a textbook or use as supplemental materials with other students as well. So some collaborative tips. I saw some questions come in about this already. So here I am in a library with books. So if you have your student library or your teacher library, I should say, with all your student books, you would see all your student books here on your screen. You can tap on one, hit the books shelf button right below it. And one of the options is to combine books. When you tap on that option, it'll bring up all the books in that library, and you can decide which books you want to combine or what pages you want to combine to create one collaborative book. So that's a great opportunity to bring in responses across the content areas and to do this collaboratively. Another option, whether you are thinking cross-curricular connections or you're thinking about just your ELA classroom, is to have students create books with their class favorite. So it might be a favorite memory from a book club. It might be a favorite book that they've read. Students can each make one page of a favorite reading experience from the year and then kick off a new unit of study by taking a look at all of their favorites. A book of class favorites can have multiple purposes. So you might have students make a book of their favorite books at the beginning of the year and then share that out so every student can learn a little bit more about their classmates. Or you might have students do this at the end of the school year and then have a book full of recommendations for your new group of students. So I want you to try it, our last try it of today. Open up your book, choose a new page or use the same page, and use the audio feature to add to your page. Go ahead and share a recommendation for another reader. Maybe it's why they should read that favorite book or a book you just finished that you like a lot. Go ahead, press the audio button, practice recording your voice, and I'll be quiet for a moment so you can record, and I will peek at your questions. Awesome. So go ahead, keep recording your voice using the audio feature to talk about your book. One question that came in about the webinar is if it's going to be available after we finish up today. Absolutely. This webinar will be uploaded onto Book Creator's channel. YouTube channel, so you'll be able to access it and watch it and scroll back and pause and see all the slides and activities that we talk about. If you are continuing to add audio to your page, go for it. One last question for you today. How can your students share their reading experiences with Book Creator? What are some ideas that jumped out at you today? Some things that you're thinking of doing moving forward? How can your students share their reading experiences with Book Creator? So I see some folks sharing about doing some global or national collaborations, absolutely, working across time zones, across continents, you name it. Having students create daily journals, reviewing books to create a class book full of recommendations. Awesome. Keep these ideas coming in the question box. Awesome. As you keep adding your ideas, I'm going to share some messages with you, and then of course we'll do I'll take a peek again and look at any other questions that have come in. So just so you know, Book Creator lets you, as you've probably seen already for those of you on Chrome today for the first time, create one teacher library and 40 books. So this is great for a teacher just getting started working with one class. If you are working with a bunch of different classes or you want to create lots of books over the school year, they have two upgrade opportunities. If you want your whole school to do this, you can always send an email to sales@bookcreator.com and they'll set you up with some special things as well. So really so many things that you can do. let's go ahead and take a couple moments for some more questions that came in. I saw a question that came in about creating templates for students. So you have a couple different options if you want to create templates for students. You can create a book in Book Creator as an EPUB file. That could be a template for them. You can create an image that you put in their Google Drive, and then they open up that as an image on the back of their page and add all their multimedia features on top. So a couple different options. I saw a question come in about voice recording. If you want students to record their voice, yep, they can absolutely use a microphone, or they can just use the microphone built into their device. So it really just depends on the audio quality, how noisy the space is where kids are recording. You might have them record in shifts so that not everyone is talking at the same time. Totally up to you. Great. So a couple questions coming in about text and formatting. So as soon as you tap on that text, you get a blue box around it with those blue corners. Then you hit the I Inspector button and you can make all the changes. If I didn't get to your question today, I'll make sure you can see my email down there at the bottom. You can always send an email straight to the Book Creator folks, or reach out on Twitter too. But a few announcements before we finish up. Remember, we have 3 more webinars coming up in the month of July next month, and a couple in August too. Wherever you signed up for this Book Creator webinar, whether it was from my classtechtips.com site or straight from Book Creator's website, you can go to the same place, or you can head over to bookcreator.com/webinars. You are welcome to share that link with anyone you want so that they can join in on the webinar too. Book Creator has a bunch of free ebooks for you to download straight from their website. They have 50 ways to use Book Creator in your classroom with lots of different choices, and a book that I wrote for them recently called 15 Ways to Use Book Creator for Reading Responses. So you have that as an option as well. So a couple different options there when you want to open up the book or download it to your device and get some more ideas for using Book Creator. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll make sure that if you're joining us live that you'll get a link to this Book Creator webinar. You can join the Book Creator Facebook group. I know I'm in it. It's facebook.com/group/Book Creator, another awesome place to get ideas. And if you are making books, if you have questions, if you want to share out your students' work, Twitter is an awesome place to do it. You can tag at Book Creator app, #BookCreator, or of course just send an email our way and show off some of the awesome things that are happening in your classroom. So keep those questions coming on Twitter, on social, or via email, and I hope you'll join us for some more summer webinars with Book Creator. Have a fantastic day.